Amy and Dennis here for the Pit Media. I am joined by David Osterhout of Bike Routes. Welcome, Dave.
Perfect. Thank you. Happy to be here.
I had to discuss before I hit record how to pronounce your last name. I'm very bad with names.
Perfect.
Yeah. Uh, we're here to talk about your new EP, Rush of Energy, released earlier this fall, October, was it October 18th or something like that?
Something like that. That sounds right.
You've had a busy fall with the EP, and I know you're playing some shows now, but you're about to hit the road on tour in next month.
Yeah.
So how busy you've been, how are you kind of managing everything?
Um, it's been a lot, honestly, but it's all been it's kind of like the best way to be busy, kind of being busy doing what I started out wanting to do, for a career job type thing. So it's been really cool and like kind of fulfilling to have like things lined up and have that kind of mindset of like, okay, we're doing this, like, all this hard work is kind of like what I always wanted anyway, I guess.
Cool. This new EP release again in October. What's the reception been like? And also, how does it differ from, previous music you've released?
Uh reception's been amazing. It's always insane to me just as a person that like anyone likes my music, so to have people connect with it and like reach out and tell me, especially like strangers that I've never met, because for the most part, through the years, you put out songs and all your friends are like, cool. But like to have like complete strangers be like, this is my favorite song is absolutely insane. And the release of this EP has been different from the previous ones, I guess, because this is the first one that I released uh, through a label, through Blue Grape. Before this, everything else I released was self-released, so I just did it on my own. So to kind of have that help and have like people that really know what they're doing be in my corner has been like a blessing. It's been amazing. So.
And you kind of touched on it there, but what is the difference like between releasing music on your own and then doing it through a label?
Um, I guess the difference is like on your own, it's kind of just like, hey, let's release it. It's kind of a lot more like you can plan it out, obviously, but that's kind of the beauty and like help of having a label that uh a lot of the things that I worry about and stress about in terms of like releasing music, it kind of like takes that weight off of it. That's oh. Uh, but it kind of takes that weight off of me, I guess, in terms of like these people know exactly what they're doing, and uh, yeah, I don't have a clue what I'm doing in terms of like the music world and whatnot, So it's nice to have them.
I feel that I work in journalism full time, and
Yeah,
plenty of times I come across a situation where I don't know what I'm doing.
yeah, yeah.
What was the writing process like for this EP? I've been listening to it nonstop since it showed up in my email, so
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
Hell yeah. The writing process for it was a lot of so prior to my first album, Bike Routes was always kind of an acoustic act, kind of just songs I would write like in my room on an acoustic guitar. And that's kind of what it still tries to be at its core. I write a lot of just demos and stuff like in my bedroom on an acoustic guitar. And then I record out in California with one of my best friends, Zach Tush. And he is my producer and co-writer and basically, he takes my ideas and we work on them together in person and kind of uh, live in this perfect harmony of like, okay, let's take the heart and soul of the song and keep it, but then make it this like full band experience that isn't just like a little acoustic song anymore.
What's it kind of like writing? You mentioned like it's kind of always been this acoustic sort of project, but now adding that extra element of kind of like the full band experience to it.
Uh, I think like in my heart of hearts, that's always what I wanted bike routes to be. It's just I didn't have like the musical knowledge, I guess, that someone like Zach brings to the table to help me transform it into that. So I guess like in the beginning, when it all started, I always did envision it turning into something like this. So it's just crazy to see that happen in real time, I guess, and see how we got from like point A to point B.
What are some of your favorite tracks off the album or the EP? Because the first one, the one that was linked to me
Yeah,
specifically, the first one off the EP, "You Want It, You Got It." I
yeah,
love that song. I've been in a funk like the last, I keep saying a month. It's really probably been like 3, 4 months.
yeah,
That song, parts of it really hit on how I'm feeling, and
yeah,
then the rest of the EP, there's elements all throughout that are like, I love this. It's helping me right now.
yeah.
What are some of your favorite tracks? Some of your favorite lyrics within these songs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think You Want It, You Got It is definitely a big one because that was one of the first ones that I wrote for the EP, like in and of itself, before I even knew that's what it was going to be. So You Want It, You Got It is definitely a big one. But then I think World Apart and like Rush of Energy 2 are probably two of my favorites just because of how they turned out after like all the hard work. Rush of Energy was one of the first songs I wrote for like the EP, and that's why it became the title. But hearing that demo that I wrote like in my room on an acoustic guitar, and then hearing how it all turned out is like really special to me. So I think Rush of Energy is probably my favorite. But then World Apart is the same concept because that song wasn't ever supposed to exist. Kind of, it was kind of the last song we threw together to put on the EP, and then like as we wrote it, we were like, oh, this is like the coolest one, and the most fun one. So I think those are like the big three for me, and that's why they kind of like lead the way on the EP. But
Right.
in terms of like like all the other songs, like Killing Cattle in the Valley was kind of a story-esque song that I had in the works for, years. So to see that come to fruition and like close out and round out kind of the whole EP, that was really cool for me too.
Yeah. One of those songs is it "Killing Cattle in the Valley" mentions your dog. What's the line? Like she doesn't know how big the world is.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I really like that line because my dog, one of my dogs anyway, we have a puppy now, but the other one, we've taken her everywhere. And like last year, if it weren't for the fact she has anxiety, I would have tried taking her to Paris.
yeah. I feel you 100%. That's how I am with my dogs at home. I don't live at my parents' house anymore, but my two dogs that I had growing up, they're still there. So I still have to go home like once or twice a week just to see them. And that's kind of where that line came from was like, now that I left home and whatnot, they don't know where I am. They don't know where I'm going. They don't know what I'm doing. But when I come home, I'm still greeted with that same enthusiasm and energy that I always have been.
Dogs are the best.
Yeah, they're the best.
Um, Sticking to kind of this topic though, when it comes to some of these songs, is there any specific meaning behind any of them? Like, was there kind of a thought or a feeling you had when you were writing them? And I want to ask specifically about "You Want It, You Got It" because
Yeah,
that's certainly my favorite song off the
yeah.
EP. But like that one, or you mentioned "World Apart" too. We should probably touch on that, but I'll ask about that after. But just any specific meaning behind some of these songs.
Yeah. World Apart, I actually wrote uh after we scrapped my like first car that I ever drove. It was an Oldsmobile 88. I just grew up driving it, and it was funny because a lot of people, the opening lines like "Drive away with my heart on the dashboard, don't you hate when you get what you ask for?" Uh, and everyone who saw me in the coming weeks gave me their condolences. A lot of people thought that was about like a breakup or something, but it actually was about my childhood car because the line truly does come from like the week or two after I made like a whole post about like putting my car, like we scrapped it, so no one's gonna drive it ever again. And I had like random people coming up to me, like when they would see me, they'd be like, "I'm sorry about your car, dude." I was like, "Thank you, it's okay." So You Want It, You Got It kind of like meshed that into also, relationships throughout my life and like friendships and whatnot. And kind of the You Want It, You Got It, like this is what you want to be doing, so like you got it. But then also like this is what you wanted, so you got it. It's kind of that give and take of like the phrase, I guess, like, yeah, you want, you got it.
Like I said, there's not a song on this EP that I dislike. Um, and I wanted to ask, just about your writing style, like
Yeah.
your process. When you're writing a lyric or creating a melody, kind of where do you look for inspiration? What's your process like in crafting said lyric or
Yeah. I think for me, a big part in my writing is lyrics because growing up and like writing songs and whatnot, like I said, I didn't have that great, I didn't have a musical background. I didn't have like music knowledge, music theory and whatnot. So the only thing that I thought that I could bring to the table was like writing and lyrics and stuff because that's kind of like a universal thing. That's not a music-esque thing outside of like the melody and stuff. That's just like words. So that's something that I always kind of tried to like hyper focus on. And I'm a huge reader. So reading is like a huge hobby of mine. So I think that also helps in terms of like, I always write the lyrics first and I always want to make sure every line is kind of like punchy and could stand on its own, like as a one-liner. Uh, so I think just like lyrics in general are always the thing I tend to put all my energy into. Yeah.
mention books? What kind of books do you like to read?
Uh, Truly, I'll read anything. I grew up reading a lot of like Kurt Vonnegut and John Steinbeck and like Cormac McCarthy and Iris Murdoch. Those are some of like my favorite authors. So just kind of like classic fiction, But I also read a lot of history, I guess, nonfiction history, but also, like science and mathematics I'm into now too. And yeah, so kind of everything.
That's a very diverse
Yeah.
collection. You mentioned a little bit about not having a strong music background.
Yeah.
I want to ask, how did you get started in music, and what'd you listen to growing up, and what you listened to, did that inspire your music at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a big thing for me was like growing up, I did grow up, like I wasn't in a musical household, like no one in my family played or was in bands or sang or anything like that. But when I was younger, like my sister would go to like local shows and shows like in Philly and stuff. And when I turned like probably still too young, but when I was like 11, 12, 13, like I started to tag along to a few of them and I would see bands like the Wonder Years and Man Overboard and bands that were like local to here, like playing just like, you know, VFW halls and stuff and like smaller venues with my sister. And then obviously through the years watching them progress to like bigger venues and stages and stuff and just like kind of following them through my adolescent years, like middle school into high school. And then just like high school, like once a week, twice a week, then three times a week, I'd be going to shows. My dad would be driving me to shows. And that's kind of when I was like, I saw that like, oh, like kind of anyone can do this, like as long as you like put in the work, I guess. And so I started teaching myself uh guitar very poorly, just learned a few chords and then, started stringing melodies together and whatnot and lyrics. And yeah, that's kind of how it all came to be, I guess. But I grew up, yeah, listening to a lot of just like local music, but also like Bruce Springsteen, my dad like made me listen to. So a lot of Springsteen, but then a lot of just like classic emo and like hardcore and just kind of everything under the sun. Kind of the same with books, It progressed into, all genres, I
Yeah.
guess.
It's funny, just hearing you talk sparked a whole bunch of memories that I had just about my youth growing up
Yeah.
and how music, because like I can't play guitar, but when I was younger, and even still to this day, I sometimes will write lyrics myself, write
Yeah.
poetry. I can't play guitar for the life of me. I picked up a little bit of bass at one point, but I
Yeah.
forgot since. But then like local shows, I remember one time in my hometown, we had someone's grandparents left town for the weekend, and they
Yeah.
had a barn. So we had like 300 people in a barn in a
Yeah.
field.
Yeah. That's the best. That's how it
Yeah.
goes.
Um, Now I know you've got a tour coming up, and again, I'm bad with names, so can you help me here? Matt Kerr.
Matt Karekis, Matt
Okay.
Karekis. I've heard a few ways. I'll have to ask him when I meet him, but yeah.
Well, we'll say Matt K and equipment.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got this tour coming up. What do you have any expectations for it? What are you looking forward to the most from, touring?
Yeah. Truly, I have no expectations. I'm just absolutely thrilled to like be there and kind of get that opportunity. And yeah, I think the big thing that I'm most looking forward to is being able to play in so many new places. You know, we've played a lot of like the Midwest and like down south and East Coast, obviously, but we haven't hit the West Coast yet at all. So that's kind of like a milestone for us and for me, you know, just in general. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to most is just like traveling to a bunch of new places and being able to play to a bunch of people that I've never met and like yeah.
I think I saw on your Instagram today your LA show got sold out, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How's that feel?
That feels really cool. You know, obviously like we're the opener, so it's not like,
Yeah.
yeah, we sold that out, but like just to be able to be like, yeah, like a lot of these shows are going to be like really cool for us and like being able to be like exposed to like the maximum amount of people in places is like very cool.
Yeah. Now, I know February 10th, you're going to be here in the Chicago area playing the Cobra Lounge.
Yeah.
You mentioned you've toured the Midwest. Have you ever been to Chicago?
Yeah, actually, we've played Chicago a few times now, and I always say Chicago was one of the coolest cities that I ever got to play because the first time we ever played there, there was like a group of like, I don't know, 10 or 15 people at the show, and they were all singing like all the words to our songs. And that was weird because that was the first place we played where it's like I didn't know a soul in Chicago. So it was like truly just like strangers that like knew my songs and they came up to me afterwards and talked, and it was like just very, very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Having been to Chicago before, any favorite spots in the city you've hit up? Anywhere you're hoping to maybe hit up when you're here? Or
Um, Nothing crazy. So the two or three times we played Chicago, we kind of had to leave because the next day we had a show, you know, so we were kind of like uh in and out really fast.
yeah,
But the one time we stopped at the Chicago Music Exchange was really, really cool. And just shopping around there and like that area, I don't know where that was, but that was the coolest place that we've been to so far in Chicago. But naturally, yeah, I hope to explore more and go to many cool places.
yeah, I'm not sure what your schedule looks like for the
Yeah.
Chicago date. Because I don't have I didn't think to pull up the full tour poster, but
Yeah,
hopefully you get to explore a bit when you're here.
yeah, absolutely.
So Dave, I have nothing else for you. We'll hit stop on this recording here in a moment, but I just want to say thank you for taking the time to speak
Yeah,
with me. And again, I really enjoy this EP.
truly, that means the world to me. I'm so glad. That's awesome.
Cool.
Seriously. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.